Hey boyos. Not a daily check-in with John B. I'm doing something a little different this time, as I have been for a while. I'm going to respect Jughead and do what he requested, and also Bonobo. I do like Bonobo's idea a little more, but we can still do Jughead's idea in the future. But with Jughead, um, say whatever comes to mind about them or whatever you want to say. Well, with Jughead, I remember when he first started posting on the Misk. I think he's an OG Misker. It's just he wasn't really well known. Maybe he was just away from the Misk for a long time. But when he started posting on the Misk and he had that picture of that sloot, which he still does, and his name was Jughead, I was like, well, that's interesting. And he said he was from Nova Scotia, just like me, and I found it very interesting. And I automatically assumed, maybe he knows my cousin, because the girl in the his Avi looks like my cousin, and her family had a cat named Jughead when I was a kid. So I asked him about that, and it's not he knows nothing about her. So that's what automatically comes to mind about Jughead. And yeah, he's probably more financially well off than me. I would hope so, and most likely he is. So that's what I have to say about Jughead. But moving on to Bonobo, I'm just going to refresh the screen real quick to make sure I don't have any more admissions, and I do not. So, talk about the difference between Canadians and Americans and how you perceive Americans. Differences. Um, I did work for some call centers where I would call American customers and try to sell them certain products, and I did work for call centers selling to Canadians. And the difference is, I know Americans may not like me saying it, but I notice when selling to American customers, they have a sense of entitlement, as if other people owe them something, right? Canadians aren't like that. Canadians are more about they don't have that entitlement to them where they think others owe them something. And with Americans, like if they think they're gonna miss out on a good deal, it upsets them. They want to be told about the good deals available, because if they feel that other people are getting deals that they are not, they become upset. And that was my experience in call centers when selling products to Americans. Um, but yeah, Americans, they, just my experience, they have a sense of entitlement where they think they're entitled to things, other people owe them something. Now, obviously, I'm a little biased, of course, in favor of Canadians because I myself am a Canadian, right? So I'm trying not to be biased here, but that's just my experience. Obviously, Canadians probably have failios as well, right? It's like I will go over them as well, but as for Americans, I don't know a lot about Americans. I don't really know any Americans. So I can't really say how Americans differ from Canadians, but just I can from the experience I have with them, and that's mostly from call center work, right? Um, and I noticed American customers, they tend to become more irate on average than Canadian customers did when I would call them. And, you'd occasionally get the American man, he would go on a rant and just yell and say a bunch of nonsense and would not let you speak. And when I worked with Canadian customers, that very rarely happened. Canadians tend to be very chill and mellowed out, right? They're the kind of people that they'll invite you over for a beer or smoke some weed, right? You can literally just meet them, and they will literally invite you to their house and offer a beer to you or a toke on a joint, right? That's what Canadians are like. I don't know if it's the same way with Americans. I assume it's not. And another thing about Americans, everything is about lawsuits. I've seen Judge Judy, and everything is about lawsuits. And Americans are very, very vengeful. Very vengeful. Canadians are not so vengeful, right? With Americans, if you file a lawsuit against somebody, they are going to have a counterclaim against you. That's what I learned from Judge Judy. There is hardly ever a case on Judge Judy where there is not a counterclaim involved. And it's basically, oh, you're gonna, you're gonna sue me. I'm gonna sue you right back. That's how Americans basically seem to be when it comes to the law and lawsuits, right? Canadians aren't like that. Canadians aren't like that at all. With Canadians, a lawsuit is a very rare occurrence. It's usually in the form of charges, which would be like a fine. And that very rarely happens either, but I myself have never filed a lawsuit. I don't think I've personally known anyone who has ever filed a lawsuit. If there's some kind of malpractice suit or something like that, potentially, nobody files it, right? I've had the opportunity, I could have filed malpractice lawsuits, and I never followed through with it because Canadians are just so laid back and chilled, and they don't want to fight. They don't want to have a problem with you, right? Americans are a little different than that. Americans are very vengeful. It's you do this to me, well, I'm going to do it right back to you. That's what I get from Americans, just from watching Judge Judy, right? And yeah, but yeah, Americans are very chilled out, very laid back, very at ease. They don't want to fight. And Americans, they seem to be more willing to fight. They seem to be more aggressive from what I found on the phone. They're very vengeful. They feel entitled to things they think other people owe them. Now, like I said, I'm trying not to speak from a bias here because I don't personally know any Americans, and I've only ever known Canadians or immigrants, of course. We're overrun with the Indians right now. But yeah, those are the main differences that I've noticed between Canadians and Americans. And like I spent some time in Ontario, and Ontario is basically the closest thing you're going to get to the US without being in the US. And there's a little bit of overlap there because a lot of Americans often move to like Toronto or something apparently. And when I spent some time in Ontario, I did live relatively close to the border, and there was times, a couple times, somebody would tease me about the way I would say certain words. Like I'd say road, and they'd say it sounded like I was saying rood, um, and I'd be just sitting there kind of baffled, like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't sound like I'm saying road. It sounds like road. They'd say like I would put like emphasis on the R part, the part for road, and saying things like sorry. I'd say sorry funny apparently because I'd put extra emphasis on the sound. And I didn't see that at all, but yet there was a couple times people would tease me about how I said R's in words. Yeah. Um, I didn't rehearse this video at all. I had a couple things automatically came to mind and was like, yeah, that should be enough for a video. Let me think for a moment. Think if there's anything else. Um, there seems to be more money in the US. Now, growing up in a rural area in Nova Scotia, everybody's poor. Everybody seems to be poor. Like, I'm not even joking. Probably 90% of the people I have known in my life were scraping bottom, working in places like McDonald's and Walmart, making minimum wage or hardly more than, basically entry level positions, right? And the other 10%, were making decent money. By decent, I mean like uh, 40, 50,000, maybe a bit more. There is literally two people I have known that made or make 100,000 a year. One of those people lives in rural Nova Scotia as a car salesman, and the other used to live in Alberta, where he was making 100,000 a year as a mechanic. And he moved back just a few years ago to Nova Scotia, and I seen him at the grocery store and was speaking to him, and he was saying how, when he moved back with doing the same kind of work as a mechanic, he's literally making half the income as when he was in Alberta. So Nova Scotia, especially, is very poor. Prince Edward Island is probably the most poor area in Canada. Most poor area. It's considered part of Nova Scotia, but it is more poor than Nova Scotia. Some say that New Brunswick is poorer than Nova Scotia. That could be the case, but Nova Scotia is definitely one of the top two or top three poorest provinces in Canada. And yes, but I don't know if the U.S. is like that, has really poor areas. But from what I understand, anybody I've known that was based in the U.S., they were always well-to-do people. They always made a lot of money. And Canadians, I cannot say the same about Canadians that I have known. Like I said, growing up in rural Nova Scotia, most of the people are very poor. And I have it kind of lucky because I have call center experience. So I can literally work for a call center that is stationed out of somewhere like Ontario and make more money than I could working somewhere like McDonald's or Walmart down the street, right? Because generally, other provinces, the income is a bit higher than Nova Scotia, right? Um, but yeah, there isn't too much else to say, I don't think. Um, those are the main differences between Americans and Canadians. Um, I don't know what Canadians are like in regards to their cell phone, but I know when I worked for a call center, taking calls for billing for a cell phone, people got more worked up in the U.S. about their cell phone than their credit card, right? They got way more worked up. They were more, uh, they cared more about their cell phone than their credit card. It seemed like because um, if you mentioned anything to them about credit card, they didn't care. You mentioned cell phone, they cared. But maybe that's just because it was for a cell phone company that I was working for at the time. But yeah. But I will give my thoughts about Bonobo and what I think about him initially. Um, when he first started posting on the Misc, I was like, "Who the fuck is this? This is some get her done wannabe," and it's not. It's kind. It's not completely out of the question that Bonobo could be a get her done alt. I don't think he is because Get Her Done has been pretty loyal to his one account as Get Her Done, and he has not posted in a very long time. So if he is alting his Bonobo, he must have completely abandoned his Get Her Done account, which I don't think is the case. I think Bonobo is an independent misker, and I don't think he's somebody's alt. I don't think he actually is 280 pounds and 5'4". He posted some pictures of someone that looks to be in much better shape than someone with those stats. So, but Bonobo, I don't think is out to really piss anybody off. He's trying to become, most popular misker is what I get from him, and that's great. Keeps the forum alive, keeps the forum active, so I'm in favor of him. But yeah, boyos, that's all I have to say. Peace out and see you online.